everybody, and welcome to episode 107 of On the Road with AutoTrader, where we make car stuff simple for Canadians. My name is Jodi and I'm the editor-in-chief of AutoTrader.
And my name is Dan Alika, and I am AutoTrader's Road Test Editor.
And I am Sébastien Bell, and I am the associate editor at AutoTrader.
Now, I got to shout out our good friend, Ben Sanders, who listens to every single episode. We used to work with Ben at a previous job that we had, and we have remained very close. And he listens to every episode, and he actually suggested the topic for this episode. So thank you very much, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
This is a very interesting one, and we did an episode on EV startups way back when, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was called "What's the Deal with All These EV Startups?"
Yeah, and we were kind of going through like why so many of them have popped up.
Yeah.
And since that episode, so much has changed.
Yeah.
And a lot of the automakers that we talked about, I think that was episode like 20 something, 3 years ago. A lot of those companies are no longer around.
Remember Lordstown Motors?
Yeah, whatever happened to them? Like, there's so many.
Jodi drove one of those trucks.
Did you drive a Lordstown?
Yeah,
I had no idea.
there was a real truck, and I drove it, and I was like, wow, I'm impressed that you have a real truck.
I'm still kind of surprised that there was a real
That
truck.
company, oh my God. We can't even get into all the craziness of that.
A lot of legal issues at that company.
Yeah,
Did
like
you drink the
federal
water that came out from from the tailpipe?
federal charges and everything. Like it was like the ultimate sort of like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. And okay, well, I guess we can start with Lordstown. That one wasn't around for very long, but they did have a real truck. The only one of many problems is that they only projected 500 units production a year, which they never hit.
Yeah.
And it was only for fleet sales.
Yeah, but a lot of that was sort of they didn't really discuss it openly. So a lot of it was once questions started being asked, they were like, well, no, we never promised that. And then people were pulling up like investor packages and being like, you guys did say this. And it was, supposed to be a mass consumer product that you then said, no, it's fleet only.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre.
Very bizarre. And so just to set the scene for this, like Tesla is obviously a major player in the automotive industry. It was a startup. It was a true industry disruptor. And
not founded by Elon Musk. I gotta just say that.
He invested into it.
I don't care how much he paid to say that. He's not a co-founder.
Yeah.
He was an angel investor who came in after the three original founders started the company. He kind of bailed them out with a bunch of money because it's expensive to make EVs, especially when you don't have the backing of a legacy company. Yeah. And he said, I will do this on the condition that in legal documents, I am listed as a co-founder. And they all said, okay, fine, we'll take the deal. Yeah. And now he's celebrated as this scion. And it's like he bought his way in.
Yeah.
But regardless of all that, it was still a disruptive company. Yeah. They're huge now, but it really inspired a lot of other people to be like, oh, hey, I can be like Elon Musk. I have a tech company. I can make a car.
Yeah.
And then companies popped up and they just as quickly disappeared because they realized that like, oh, damn, making a car is really hard. And even like big companies have been trying to make EVs. Apple has been trying to make an EV. Sony, Google, Dyson. They all had like huge investments into making EVs.
Honda. Sorry.
Yeah, they're all.
But I mean,
and all of these projects are now gone or they've fizzled out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like very hard to make cars, even as an established, very well-funded company, right?
Yeah, I think but we should just say, like, so some of these companies, and we won't get into every single one of them. Some of them, unfortunately, these were bad actors who saw it as a way to effectively steal money from people because
Ponzi scheme.
EVs were like the thing to invest in. So if you said, I have an EV startup, it was a lineup of investors.
Yeah, totally.
And so there were a bunch of companies that turned out to be absolutely nothing.
Totally.
But then there were ones that, to Jodi's point, were at least on the surface seem like legitimate efforts, but it is very expensive.
Yeah.
And,
This goes to my theory that EVs are something that people want. They want them to be gadgets, but they're actually very complicated.
Yeah.
And
very complicated.
Yeah, it's not a gadget.
So back 3 years ago when we did that initial episode, we talked about companies like VinFast, Bollinger, Fisker, and Lordstown. Do you remember any of these names? Like they're already so far. VinFast, okay, we VinFast is still here, but they're not doing amazing. Like even VinFast shut down half of their Canadian operations here, so that was 5 dealerships that are now gone.
The VinFast VF8, there's a redesign that's coming,
and you love it.
Sebastian doesn't like it. Jodi and I were both like, this is a good looking car.
They ruined my baby. I thought that the VF8 looked fine. I don't think it was a stunner.
It because it was Pininfarina was involved.
Look, if a classic Italian design studio with a lot of experience in industrial design should make a beautiful vehicle.
Okay, so we're going to predict which of today's EV kind of startup companies are going to last. And then I just wanted to bring up different companies that have existed that like are kind of Canoo. Remember Canoo? Yeah. BrightDrop is kind of like...
But BrightDrop is a brand, in fairness. It's owned by GM.
Yeah. And I see those all the time around Toronto.
Yeah.
They're super cool.
Oh my God, they're amazing.
They make so much sense, right?
And they've been, but they're
delivery
done.
Yeah.
They're done.
Yeah.
So I think I said before, that the BrightDrop, the idea of doing like an RV conversion with one of those would be
cool.
Sick.
Yeah. So cool.
But anyways, those are going to land on the market in 5 years. Once Purolator starts dumping them, they're going to be dirt cheap.
Those retrofitters are going to go nuts on those,
They're going to be cheap.
That's going to be
But
sick.
anyway, so that's a little bit of a different story because it's a sub-brand. It's no different than Pontiac being shuttered, you know?
Do you guys remember Faraday Future?
Barely.
Faraday Future. The name is familiar, but I can't picture the vehicle.
They were founded in 2014. Production started in 2023.
Yeah.
That's a long time to produce one vehicle, right?
Hey.
In 2025, it was reported that they sold under 20 cars. Each vehicle was $300,000 plus. And they were supposed to be launching a more affordable mass market car. Of course, they are undergoing investigations. And it's another one of those companies that, like, Faraday Future was like really hyped up.
Yeah.
And then now it's just kind of like fizzled out. It's gone nowhere.
Okay, well, go ahead,
Seb.
Well, the brand that I do want to get on the hype train about, just because I think it's a cool vehicle, is the Aptera one, which has like solar panels all over the roof. It's a 3-wheeled.
Didn't it fly?
No. I don't think it flew. I think that's a different one. And
that's the Aptera.
There we go.
Anyways.
It's like a 3-wheeler. It looks like a Star Wars pod racer. It's kind of nifty and like absolutely probably doesn't make sense. Yeah. But theoretically, you can own it without ever having to charge it if you live in California somewhere that's sunny. But still, pretty cool.
Cool concept.
Yeah.
So the market right now for EVs is a tricky one, especially because a lot of the incentives in America have evaporated. Federal incentives are no longer offered in America. And so there's a lot of companies now with like a lot of funding that are making vehicles. Yeah. So I'm just going to list them out, then we can talk about them. Slate, Lucid, Rivian, and Scout, which is a relatively new one.
Yeah.
I think those are the biggest ones right now that are maybe most well known.
Yeah.
So I have driven a Lucid. You've driven a Lucid. I've driven a Rivian. I love them.
Yeah.
The products are really, really good.
Yeah.
However, both of those brands are positioned as like niche luxury automakers.
Tough time.
Yeah.
My actual, like, maybe not prediction, but my reality check on this subject is that every single one of those brands is at risk of failure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they are burning cash. Okay.
None of them are profitable, I think, right now.
And so Rivian, let's start with Rivian. Okay. Two vehicles, the RS one, the RT one, which the S is an SUV, the truck is the T, whatever. They're really cool. Lots of technology when it works, but there's been lots of bugs. Go figure.
Yeah.
There are 2 cheaper models that are supposed to be on their way that, are going to reverse the fortunes. But of course, every talk comes down to that.
I do also think that we have to talk about what cheap means to these startups.
Yeah.
They're still expensive vehicles. They're still BMW sort of pricing.
$80,000 for a
compact
that's
crossover.
Not cheap.
Yeah. No. So Lucid and Rivian, cool stuff, but like maybe on the rocks, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that I will say about Rivian is that they have a partnership with Volkswagen, in which Volkswagen, I think, is going to pay them like $5.8 billion.
There's a lot of these, Volkswagen is also Scout.
Yeah.
That's
which is weird that they're sort of in direct competition with each other.
Yeah. But going back to Lucid, I will say, and the same sort of thing applies to Rivian. Lucid, because it's a small company, is able to react really quickly to changes, to complaints. And one of the really good examples, I think, is that in the Lucid Air, which is the sedan, the first model that Lucid launched, it was a portrait-oriented touchscreen. It was low on the console, and it was just universally panned by users.
Yeah.
Right? People like us, journalists like us, that were like, this sucks.
Didn't love it.
Owners were like, this is terrible. Lucid was in the process of developing the Gravity, which is its SUV, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
Just changed the whole approach, went with this landscape screen that is a million times better, location is better, and all of the people involved were very honest. They were like, yeah, we got kind of tunnel vision. And as soon as we got that feedback, we were like, we got to pivot and change and the Gravity is so much better to use because of this change. And I'm not saying that to just, give them a shout out. It's genuinely a good thing that has happened. And I think with smaller brands, that capability exists.
Yeah, because there's just less red tape to cut through, right?
Yeah.
So these smaller brands can make really quick changes. And plus Lucid, the engineering behind the Lucids and the Rivians are like top notch.
Yeah, I will say that I think that if Lucid is in trouble because it's in a market segment that's very hard. It's very competitive and very expensive, which in a time when the wider economy isn't doing the ground, is a difficult position to be in. And also, as you said, incentives and in the US are going away. So I think that it is certainly in trouble. But I do think that the engineering is so good and interesting.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
I wonder if the more realistic scenario than it going under is it getting bought up by a different company.
Okay, so Lucid started making components for other automakers.
Yeah.
And then eventually they had enough experience doing that they thought, okay, well, maybe we can make our own car, right?
Totally.
Can I just say, though, one of my, to kind of to your point, and I guess it's the other side of the coin that I talked about with it being a small brand, is it is kind of run by enthusiasts, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And that has its pros for sure, but it lacks the mass appeal. Yeah. So, the Lucid Air Sapphire, which is like the fast one, right? It's supposed to compete with like a Tesla Model S Plaid.
Very expensive.
Very expensive, very cool, but it's like, what is the market for that? It's so niche.
Yeah.
And that becomes the issue with these brands where they're building, Rivian's the same way. These very cool, outdoorsy, adventurous takes,
very
but it's
niche.
like, who's actually like, what is the mass appeal of a vehicle that has like that big pull-out drawer in the back and it's all geared for camping? And it's like, okay, cool. That's not a big, like the average family isn't interested in that.
Yeah,
Totally.
and I don't think Rivian was ever trying to position itself for everybody, right?
No, but that's how you make money, and that's how you survive, right? And then the only other thing I will say that with these companies, Lucid being one of them, I think one of the risks that gets overlooked. So I've always said to people, including, people that we've worked with, if I were in the market, if I were considering something like a Lucid, I would look at leasing instead of financing or buying outright. That is how you protect yourself as a consumer. Yeah. The problem is that is not how automakers make money. And luxury automakers traditionally have gone down that route, but they've seen the same thing, BMW being a famous example. And they went, oh my God, when the economy turns and now all of a sudden we have all of these cars, that's how certified pre-owned has become a big thing, right? Is they're like, what are we going to do with these cars? Yeah. But BMW has 100+ years of history and all exactly. Whereas these smaller companies, all of a sudden when they have these vehicles that are traded in off the leases, and it's like, what are we going to do with them? They're worth nothing. Well,
and that is the thing, to protect yourself, because people who bought Fisters and people who bought
another one that's gone
the Ocean, you're really stuck with a vehicle that is very hard to work on.
Yes.
And you have no support. Yeah. And like you can go on forums, but like and I'm sure that there's a lot of help, but that you're really signing up. If the company is at risk of going under, you're signing up for a big risk of having a brick in your driveway.
Absolutely.
That cost whatever $80,000-$100,000.
Yeah, one of our contributors, Matt Bubbers, wrote a really good story about like what Fisker owners are supposed to do or what are people supposed to do in general when the automaker who made your cars like belly up, right?
Yeah, and I'll link to that in the description.
Yeah, because it's a really good one. But that's like a real risk that you have to consider when you're dealing with these like non-legacy automakers.
Yeah. How is that? That's another, like the whole Fisker story is crazy. Because it's like, you know,
they need a Netflix special on this.
They do, because it's like Henrik Fisker tried twice and failed twice and burned through billions of dollars twice.
Well, the good news is that if you do go on the forum, you might see the Pope on there because he has a Fisker Ocean. So he's, you know, I hear he's got it from the beta man.
Yeah. There you go. Well, it's just, but anyways, it's just it's crazy to look at a company, and that's another thing where it's like he was celebrated as this sort of visionary engineer, and he's done some cool stuff, but that doesn't always translate to success.
Well, and to your point about enthusiasts, like we're terrible customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we talk a lot of smack and we don't buy stuff.
Yeah, we don't put our money where our mouth is.
We've talked about this with manual transmission cars, right?
Yeah.
All of this save the manual stuff. And it's like, I hate to break it to you, any of you watching or listening right now, if you're buying a used car, you ain't saving the manuals. I'm sorry, that's just not how it works.
And I've only ever bought used cars.
And that's the thing. But you don't go around going, "Oh, save the manual."
No.
First of all, that was a term. But that was a term that was coined by an editor at Car and Driver. So anybody who's co-opted that, it's like, okay, it's not yours. But anyways, the point is, only buying new is the way to do that. It's the way to save the manuals. And if you're not doing that, then guess what? That's not going to stick around.
Womp womp. What are your feelings about Slate? So for our listeners, Slate Automotive, very interesting startup. It was founded in 2022 in America. It's famously backed by Jeffrey Bezos of Amazon.
Jeffrey is no longer on the board, or his representation is no longer on the board. They have pulled out. The Amazon is still supporting it, but Jeff...
Like he's not actually having his opinion is not impacting what happens.
Yeah.
So
he wants to go ruin the economy in different ways.
When Slate was new, a lot of people, mainly like tech bros and like Amazon, like fanboy types, were like, oh, this is going to be a game changer.
And enthusiasts, though.
And enthusiasts, too, because the whole idea behind Slate was that they would sell you a bare bones electric vehicle where you could then like customize what you want. Like we're talking like crank windows, no infotainment, no screen, no nothing.
Yeah.
And they were saying that this is going to be like the next chapter of like automotive manufacturing and customization. And so far, they have secured 100,000 reservations, and each reservation was a refundable $50. So it's like not a huge commitment to make,
Not a huge commitment. Also, how many reservations did the Cybertruck get, and how much? How it's selling? Not at all. I will also say that people are always listing the $25,000 starting price for the Slate truck. That is in U.S. dollars.
That's U.S. dollars.
So first of all, disabuse yourself of the notion that you're going to get a $25,000 truck. Second of all, that is a truck with a steering wheel and an accelerator, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
For a brand new vehicle.
For a brand new vehicle.
With terrible range, too.
With terrible range. It's a two-seater.
Yeah.
And so by the time you get, a screen, maybe a seat that's comfortable, you're talking $35,000, $40,000 probably in Canada. Yeah. I'd rather have a Civic.
I know.
That's been my issue from day one. I think this is going to go absolutely nowhere.
I think so too. So they said they're expecting their first deliveries late this year, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I just don't see it happening. The other side of this is that, okay, on the surface, 100,000 reservations at $50 a pop. You're like, A, it's a safe bet if you're interested. And B, 100,000 reservations sounds great. Now, I'm no math whiz, so some of you may have seen me bust out my phone calculator just to double check before I open my mouth. That's $5 million.
In free money for them.
But that's no capital.
Yeah.
That's going to keep the lights on for about 2 months.
Because these tech companies burn through cash so quickly.
So it's
also, if it's fully refundable, it's not really your money.
Exactly.
Well, the only thing, it's like the Tesla thing that I've always talked about, right? These are free loans.
Yeah.
So instead of going to the bank and having this huge interest rate, get a bunch of reservations. It's an interest-free loan. And then if people cancel, you go, cool, well, we used the money already, so it's all good. You can have your money back off of the money we made from whatever we produced.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't think Slate's going anywhere.
Is nothing.
No.
For a car company?
No. That barely covers crash testing.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So I really think that if this is like 80 episodes after we did the what's the deal with all these EV startups. In 80 episodes, we're not even going to remember the name Slate.
Yeah,
that's just my
I feel like that's
prediction.
a good prediction.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Scout, which is a Volkswagen subsidiary? Initial production was supposed to begin in 2027. But the launch of their facility has already been delayed. It began construction in 2024. Again, Volkswagen / Scout has a partnership with Rivian, which I think might delay Rivian's potential
demise
because of that cash injection.
I think on the surface, it looks. There are two vehicles, right?
Yeah.
Just like, and go figure, just like the R1S and the R1T from Rivian, there are two off-roaders.
Retro designs.
Look really cool.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they look cooler than the actual Rivian models.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do not have high hopes for the success of this brand.
The timing is just so bad right now, right? And the other thing is Scout is already facing a lot of lawsuits from, dealer associations because they want to do a direct to consumer model instead of traditional dealerships, right?
And Volkswagen dealers are really mad about that.
Exactly. So they have to, if they can't solve that, then where does that leave them, right?
So this is, I guess, maybe like a good education point. So in Canada, Genesis, there are Genesis stores now, and they've existed for a few years. But in the beginning, Genesis was supposed to be strictly direct to consumer. You could buy online. If you lived close to a Genesis, service center, they'd pick your car up and whatever. In the States, there is no direct-to-consumer model for Genesis for this exact same reason. Hyundai dealers, because dealer lobbies are very powerful, and they went, nope, can't do it. We've got these agreements. These are legally binding. Guess what? These are your products. You have to sell them through us. Where Tesla gets away with it is a true startup.
Yeah.
It's an independent company, so it's able to do that. Lucid is the same way. But anytime there is an association with a brand, an existing legacy automaker, guess what? You ain't selling it directly to the consumer in the States.
Yeah.
Canada, there's a little bit more flexibility, although because we often walk in lockstep with what happens in the US, I don't know what's going to happen when and if Scout comes to Canada.
Totally.
But it could face the same issues, or it might just be easier to say, hey, if we're forced down that path in the US, we'll just take that same path in Canada.
Yeah, we want to start a whole thing. I will say that the one positive thing I can say for Scout is that from the introduction of the vehicles, they were saying that they were going to do range extended models, but that means that they run on electric power alone, like the motors power the wheels, but they also have an internal combustion engine to sort of charge a battery while they're going. That seems to be the direction that most conventional automakers have taken with pickup trucks.
Yeah.
Like that's the way that Ram is going. That's the way that Ford seems to be going.
GM is talking about it.
So it gives you more range. It especially if you're towing or you're doing pickup stuff.
Yeah.
It is sort of a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Also, right now, in terms of timing, that is also a positive because in the States, which is the bigger North American market and the one that they're really targeting, EV sales aren't doing very well because there are no more incentives. Also, startups aren't doing very well because traditional automakers don't need to buy environmental credits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of like the startup stuff, a lot of that startup money that was once being funneled into EV companies is now being funneled into AI companies, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
they're missing out on that money too. So it's like a very hard time right now to be an EV startup.
And that's the thing is we talked earlier about, the money, and you just mentioned that angel investor money, but even beyond that, when legacy automakers were looking to hitch their wagons to these rising stars, they don't really need to do that anymore because either their strategies have changed or they've got enough internal technology that they can do it on their own, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, GM is a good example of this. It's like, why would GM invest in a small EV startup when GM has the capabilities now to do it all on its own?
And if it is going to invest in a small EV startup, it's going to invest in one whose technology is more advanced.
Yes.
It's going to invest in somebody who's working on solid state batteries or lighter materials. It's going to be more targeted than it used to be.
Yeah, and we've only talked about the EV companies that are operating in North America. Like there are dozens and dozens of them around the entire world trying to do the exact same thing, right? So I can't imagine, like, daily, there's probably some shutting down and starting up. So it's a really vicious cycle, I think.
And then, you know, the other factor that I think weighs into this discussion, maybe not as directly as financing, but Chinese EVs.
Well, yeah, that is.
Exactly.
Because doesn't matter. They're a little bit like, you know, this asteroid that's bearing down. And yeah, Chinese EVs are only as far as North America, are only coming to Canada, not the US. Or I should say also Mexico, but in terms of Canada and the US, not to the US. But they make no bones about it. That's the ultimate strategy, is to wait out the current administration, more or less, and make their way to the US once that once the tariffs are lifted.
And
well, what does that mean for companies like Scout and Rivian and Lucid that have banked on, hey, we're sort of unique, and now the threat comes from China, where there are these very advanced.
Well, exactly.
EVs.
Sort of eating their breakfast, drinking their milkshake on the advancement.
In a market that is already so competitive and like not really that great for EVs in general, right?
So I think this whole talk about, we did that episode, 2-3 years ago. In 2 or 3 years, it's like I said about Slate, my prediction, this same thing, the next time we talk about this, it is going to look so different than it looks today versus 2-3 years ago.
Totally.
Things are constantly changing.
Can I hold us all to a decision?
Yeah.
Obviously, we want all companies to survive. Obviously, we want the people who worked at these companies to do well. But realistically, Rivian, do you think it's going to go under? Do you think it's going to continue on its own? Or do you think it's going to get bought up?
It'll get bought up.
I think it'll get bought up because their tech and design is really good.
I think it's going to survive on its own.
Okay.
I think it's going to work with other automakers. I think Rivian has a chance at survival.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Lucid.
Oh, man. I don't think it's going to make it.
But their tech is so good. And I love the product. But it's tough, though, because they don't have any joint venture money, right? Like, they have a partnership with Uber, and that's not, Uber is sketchy as it is. So, like, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think Lucid's going to make it, but I would love to see them make it.
I think I've said that I think they're going to get bought up, so I'm going to stick with that. Slate.
Gone.
Dusted. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, they cooked, fam.
And then Tesla will survive.
Of course, Tesla will survive because it's already.
But also Tesla is sort of angling for a future of AI and robots and all this. So who knows what it's going to look like? I don't necessarily think it'll just be, a car company for better or for worse. But I don't see Tesla going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what? I'm going to be bold because there are no states. I think they're going to crash out.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that wishful thinking, or?
I would never wish for the demise of a company except for Tesla.
Yeah, and just to Seb's point, I think the last sort of clarity is that, the reason why we wish or hope that these companies remain in operation is to create competition and to create better products for consumers.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, we want to see people be able to buy the best vehicles that they can possibly buy. We want to test the best vehicles that we can possibly test.
Of course.
And if these companies are just, fizzling, then that doesn't happen. And then the legacy automakers win and they can continue, shoehorning V8s under the hoods of their pickup trucks without any fear of competition.
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's why we want to see these companies survive, not because we have any sort of loyalty to them or whatever. It's just see a healthy industry.
Yeah, healthy industry and just generally.
And they're doing so many cool things.
Yeah,
like the stuff they're doing is genuinely cool, and I would love to see that, in a bigger mainstream. I would love to see more mainstream appetite for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I just want success for good faith companies.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that
Shall we
much
ask an expert?
Sure. Before our Ask an Expert, here's a message from your friends at AutoTrader. We at Own the Road love making car stuff simple for Canadians, and the AutoTrader app does the exact same thing. Sign up for price drop notifications, find out how much your car is worth, get an instant cash offer from a vetted dealership, get all your expert advice, and more. Download the AutoTrader app today. Today's Ask an Expert comes from JJ, which is our friend Barsh, Acuric's wife.
Oh.
Hello.
She simply asks, why are cars so big now? That's a great question.
It is a great question.
It's a bit of a chicken or the egg thing when you really think about it, right?
Yeah.
Is that, you know, it's not just the perceived safety of being a bigger vehicle, but the reality is passenger protection or occupant protection has become so paramount. So the IIHS, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, is an independent body that really leads the way on safety and has arguably done more for road safety than government agencies. Okay. But what this has led to is that the crash testing has become more stringent. So the vehicles get larger. The occupants are moving closer to the center of the vehicles. So then the vehicle needs to be bigger because suddenly you're like, well, people want passenger space. And then, of course, the idea that, you know, the VinFast VF8 is a good example. We were all shocked that the new one is smaller than the last one.
That
never happens. It's always the other way. Vehicles get bigger and bigger and bigger with each generation.
Yeah. And it's not just safety, but that's a perfectly good reason. And it is a major buying consideration for most consumers. But it's also just plain old luxury. Every 4 or 5 years, or 7 years for new models, a new model comes out and an automaker has to say that it's better. And you can say, oh, well, we have this much more knee room. We have this much more shoulder room.
Bigger is better in a lot of people's minds,
totally.
right?
And it's more comfortable. Like the reality is you don't fit in the back of some vehicles.
This is one of those things, right? People like to make a big deal out of, let's say, the Toyota Corolla Cross when it came out, subcompact crossover. A lot of experts were like, well, it's the size of the RAV4 when it first came out. And it's like, have you ever sat in the back of a 97 RAV4?
It's tiny.
That's tiny. It's punishment.
Totally.
Like, vehicles get bigger because automakers learn, they do roundtables with customers, they do focus groups, and the people say, we want more room. Oh, I like it, but it could use some more. The Jeep Cherokee. That is a good example. Jeep went, customers told us, they focus grouped actual customers, like existing Jeep Cherokee owners. Passenger space and cargo room.
Were the top considerations.
So those are the two areas that, and fuel economy, and that's why it's a hybrid. But anyways, though, as far as the size of the vehicle, those considerations were, boom, directly injected into the design of the new one.
Totally. And that benefits consumers, but it also benefits the automaker.
Because they can charge more money for bigger vehicles. So bigger vehicles are simply just more profitable for automakers than smaller vehicles. And it's kind of like they feed into each other, right?
Totally. Yeah. So, I mean, that maybe answers it in a roundabout way with lots of answers.
Well, yeah, and that's, I think, the thing. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of factors contributing to, we have big roads here, we have great distances, people want to be comfortable, we have so bigger is better, it's safer, and it's more profitable. So it's like it really combines to make cars bigger.
Yeah. Great question, JJ. If any of you would like to ask us questions, you can email expert@trader.ca. But that wraps up this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Drive safe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.